Good morning, dear friends. No sound. Here we go. Good morning, dear friends. Yay. There's a lot of little things to turn on and be sure are turned off, etc. Saturday, May 30th, 2020. It's drizzling here. So far this morning there's been 6 significant thunderclaps. I think we'll probably get some while we're practicing together today. Quite exciting. So, my name's Robert Beattie. I'm coming to you this morning, as I do every morning, from Beaverton, Oregon, with a broadcast, a conversation, a gathering of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. PortlandInsight.org. I had a very brief, in-passing encounter with my wife Jennifer just a few minutes ago. She got up and looked like she was going to make coffee and stay up, but then she went back to bed. I like to check in with her just for a few moments before I come out here to my tent, or come back out here to my tent. And it was a very sweet encounter, and it reminded me, I always wonder what poem shall I share in the morning. It reminded me of this poem. And since I was already thinking to speak about impermanence today, this is the poem. You may remember it. I used it about a month and a half ago, I think. A couple of years ago, Jen took me with her to her annual pilgrimage to the Jazz Festival in New Orleans. She went to college there, and she's gone there at least 10 years maybe with a dear friend from childhood. She took me to show me her places and listen to some music, and then I came home early and she stayed another few days, which resulted in the final morning with us getting up together in our bread and breakfast, and then we took a taxi to the big hotel where her friend was staying. I got out, we had a quick kiss, and then I got back in the taxi and was gone. And then 2 or 3 hours later on the plane, after having had a stop in Kansas City, I think, I was flying west over the Rockies, and I went back to the restroom, and on the way back from the restroom, a poem came to mind, and it's this poem. "33,000 feet. People sleep, watch videos, play games on screens, and sip at wine. We hurtle west over snow-covered mountains. A chasm opened, or perhaps just revealed itself with a taxi goodbye kiss. In that city now far. That moment of looking away one plane change ago, it's always the same. Here and then not here. It's that simple. Those moments that we actually have when we can touch, hear, see, and smell one another are all we really have. The stakes are high, aren't they? Either we connect and love one another now, or not at all. People sleep, watch videos, play games on screens, and sip at wine. We hurtle west over snow-covered mountains. A chasm opened, or perhaps just revealed itself, with that taxi kiss goodbye in a city now far. That moment of looking away one plane change ago, it's always the same. Here, and then not here. It's that simple, those moments that we actually have when we can touch, hear, see, and smell one another are all we really have. The stakes are high, aren't they? Either we connect and love one another now, or not at all. So let's honor the tradition and remind ourselves of the refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Really it's a bit tight in here. Really the foundation of our practice. There we go. One of the things I love most about the guitar is its continuous, utter sharing of the truth of impermanence. The attack of the guitar note is sudden, and then generally there's a long sustain. So the stream of notes, there's no stream of course, the emergence of the individual notes comes up in the echo, in the declining echo of the previous notes. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Such a beautiful prayer. Such an exquisite aspiration. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. There is nothing but change. The sense doors are really stunningly sensitive. Hearing. It's a busy morning at PDX, the Portland International Airport today. Several planes have come out already, going right overhead. There's the rain, there's occasional thunder, the crows, the jays. And there's the life of the body. And when we pay attention with bare attention, without thinking about things, we realize that we are attending to moment after moment of life. If you bring attention into the hands or the region of the universe that are, in this moment, your hands, what's really there? I bet you don't find hands. You find sensations. And the same is true everywhere in this that we take to be the body. And as it has since the moment of our birth, and as it will continue until the moment of our death, there is breathing. Why not become radically interested in the breath? If we want to study nature in the wild, we are it. The journey inward is one of constant encounter with the unknown. There is this utterly mysterious capacity of knowing what's happening. Of being what we call aware. To be awake in the present moment results in thoughts being observed as phenomena. Mostly, and without training, we humans are embedded in thought. We are unaware of thinking. And we take the stories of thought to be true. We get up in the morning and we pull on our somebody suit, and all day we think about our somebody. What do I like? What do I not like? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with them? How can I fix this? But then if we have the great good fortune to encounter the Dharma or some other consciousness discipline, we start noticing, oh, here's the breath breathing. Here is this beginning of this breath. And we come to be able to do this without words, just to be present with the sensations. And then the fact of thinking in the trance states of everyday life become very obvious. So please let's sit together, home in the breath, or home in the knowing. Not fighting with thoughts, but also setting ourselves free. Time and again, we make the initial contact. Awareness awakens from the trance. And there's nothing to think about, there's nothing to figure out. Or if there is something to think about or figure out or resolve, then we put aside meditation for a few moments, or maybe longer, and enter a contemplation where we think about things and we weigh the differences between things. And we pay attention to our intuition. In the practice of this form of meditation, none of the content is of any particular importance. It's the process. So time and again, we embrace. It's that taxi goodbye kiss. This moment, can we kiss the breath? Can we embrace the breath? And it's not even the breath, is it? It's these sensations that co-arise. And at the same time as we are cultivating the capacity of awareness to co-arise with the sensations, There's a quiet question which is not intellectual, which is not based in thought. Is anything lasting? Each breath, each thought, each sound comes into being and then disappears. This is the reality of, the dance of every single thing that has occurred on this side of the Big Bang. It's because of this truth that life exists. And it's because of this truth that we have so much suffering when we deny it, when we try to make things be permanent. So we embrace as best we can, in this moment, this truth of anicca, impermanence, not permanent. We could say, and sometimes people do, well, what's the point? Nothing's worthwhile. We might ask the surfer on a beautiful wave, what's the point? Why bother? It's such a short ride. But what a ride it is. And the same is true with the flowers in our gardens and the beauty in our relationships and the challenge and struggles. So as in the taxi kiss, we embrace the present moment as it arises and does its momentary dance in consciousness. I have a song I'm going to attempt to play, if I can find it. My mouse has vanished. I'm going to not play the song. And so now bringing awareness into the entire body, the feet, the legs, perhaps it will work. Notice how alive this body is. It's nothing but life. Life arising in this present moment. And in this flow of life, there's something that we also have, or that exists, called intention. What's my intention? Being aware of our intentions is crucial because that's what charts our destiny. So what about that intention of compassion? So much spoken of in the Buddhist world. I intend to be compassionate, starting with myself. Compassion requires love. Love meaning there's room for everything. When love encounters suffering, it converts to compassion. I aspire that when I'm hurting, no matter how I'm hurting, emotionally, physically, existentially, I aspire to hold myself in sweet compassion. Sometimes there's nothing we can do about the pain in our lives or the pain in the world. Often there's nothing we can do. But we can approach it with compassion. There's great upheaval in the world right now. There always is. Somewhere there's always upheaval. We can hold that in sweet compassion. This is the nature of human beings and the nature of the universe, constant change, anicca. And bringing awareness now into the aliveness in the face. And invite your eyes to open. Notice the effort it takes. They're not heavy, but it does take effort. It's somewhere up there in the forehead, it seems like. There's some activation that's necessary to open the eyes. And then noticing, seeing how it mysteriously appears. And then there's awareness of seeing. And the visual field is, of course, nothing but changed. If you move your eyes from left to right, try that. Just look to one side and then the other, and notice how the visual field is one mass of change. Anicca. And if it will work, I want to do a brief little dharmet. There. Here is the map to awakening. It will be on the test. Oops. Can I change it here? No. Oh dear. Sorry, gang. I have to come back out. Go back in. See if I can find it. That might have been it. Oh dear. How frustrating. Oh, there. Let me see. Oh, good. I'm going to make it much bigger. 150% bigger. More. 200. There we go. All right. So back to you. Oh dear. There we are. Hi. If it will work this time, I will do this. Okay. Share this. So this is going to be rather small, but some of you who've been here routinely, I talked about setting out on the journey and the 5 hindrances and abandoning the hindrances and then working on developing the 7 enlightenment factors. This is the usefulness of the Buddhist lists. It helps to know where we are on the map. And then we get to a point called access concentration or neighborhood concentration, where the centrifugal forces of mind are really calmed down a lot. And so we wind up just being present with what happens. And then there's a choice point. We can go into the jhanas to practice high concentration states, which has not been the majority of my training, but I do understand it somewhat. And then we go into another approach, which is choiceless awareness. And we start just watching how things are arising. Something arises at the ear, at the eye, a memory comes up. And that's really where insight meditation practice begins. And we devote ourselves to the 4 foundations of mindfulness, to the body, to feeling, to mental formations, and to mental objects. And this is the point of why I'm saying all this today, right now. Oh, I get it. Here, I can move this. Okay. This, I can make it bigger. 400%. Boom. There we go. Choiceless awareness, insight meditation practice, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And why are we doing that? If the fundamental question of a spiritual life is, who am I? Who am I really? The response to that in the Buddhist world, or in the Theravadan Buddhist world, is to say, well, why not carry out the experiment? Why not really be a scientist and carry out the experiment and test 3 hypotheses? The first one is, the one I've been emphasizing today, everything is anicca. There is nothing in the world of birth and death that lasts. Is this true? Second hypothesis. The world of birth and death, the world of being in a body, is shot through with dukkha, which is, dukkha is literally the grit in an axle when you throw sand into like a wheel, into an axle. There's always a leak in the canoe, Ruth Denison said. And that slight to massive disappointment and suffering is, my favorite English word, ubiquitous. It's with us all the time. And then this third concept, which is little understood often in the West, and we struggle with it a lot, anatta, which literally means not soul. And the translation I like best is, look with a highly trained consciousness. You will never discover yourself. You will never find something that endures, that you can hang your hat on. What you will find is everything. And you'll discover that you're not just your tiny little self, but in fact you are the ultimate, the exquisite universe. And the notion is that as we become very familiar with these and they become more than a household word, we discover the freedom that comes with awakening. And that starts, of course, with minor, less trouble with our emotions and more capacity to deal with the vagaries and challenges of relationship. But the direction is very clear. It's to wake up to our true nature and to our place in the universe, which is everywhere. So that's my little dharmet for the moment. One announcement I want to be sure to mention. Betsy Toll and I will be with you, if you want, next Saturday from 9 to 1, looking together at how we use this time of social isolation and COVID-19 to become really a lot more loving and kind and attentive to ourselves, and to help us prepare for how, when we do, as we do, reintegrate back into life, that we manage to do it with more heart and much more caring. So with that, I want to pause my speaking and open up to any question you have or any sharing on this Saturday morning as we proceed through another Groundhog Day. So if you wish to speak, please, I think, press the space bar or unmute yourself and just speak. And again, as I like to sometimes, I want to invite the quiet voices among us to come forward if you wish. No compulsion. Jim, why don't you say that so everyone gets it? Can't see you. Where's Jim hiding? Oh well. There you are. Take your raincoat. Take your raincoat. Yes. Bye, Jimbo. One other announcement while we're engaged like this. A week from Monday, I forget the date, there's going to be a new address for this meeting, and I'll be posting it next week. I'll be talking about it, but I just want you all to know that we're going to abandon this Zoom address and have a new one. So, and there'll be a few instructions with it, but it's going to be very simple, I hope. It's intended to be simple. Oh, it's the same. It'll be a Zoom call like this. Yeah. Well, the June 6th thing, the only way to have access to it is to register. You go to the portlandinsight.org website and go to the second row down of little boxes, and there's an ad for it there with a pretty picture. Go in there and then you register there. Yeah. Lovely to connect with you, Therese. Bye. Oh, I got to do something here. There's always so many little details. Please bear with me a moment. People on YouTube can't hear unless I do this. Test the speaker. All right, that'll be good. So please, the floor is open, so to speak. Hello.
It's B.
Hello, B.
Nice to talk with you this morning. I've been wondering for the last week or so if you have any thoughts about this next phase we're beginning to enter into, where things are starting to open up and we're making rather intimate negotiations with more and more friends and acquaintances about how to be in this new situation. It just feels like a kind of an unusual time where we're much more aware of each other's comings and goings and doings as we decide who we might spend some time with or not spend some time with. I don't know if I'm being clear here, but it just feels like we're trying to make a lot of choices and decisions without causing harm in a broad sense or to each other, just in terms of our emotional states.
Mm-hmm.
It feels to me like it's important for us to begin to not be completely isolated, that we long for and need each other's company. And yet we also still want to continue to protect ourselves and protect each other. How do we go about that dance? Do you have thoughts about that? Thank you.
Well, one thing I think it isn't is gathering by the thousands in small pools and saying, my faith will protect me. I don't think so. Yeah. I guess all I can say is what I've been doing and what I think I will continue to do. A wave of sadness. I'm 72 years old. I have some asthma and some hypertension. I'm in what they call the high-risk group. And I really don't want to get this thing. My daughter Tara has been working in New York. I think I've talked about it and she actually got the beast and has been home for 2 weeks. But she's okay. She's having a young person's journey through it. But she has said to me on 2 or 3 occasions, Dad, you don't want this. Be careful. And she's described what it's like for those people with some complicating comorbid conditions like mine. And it's really a bad thing. Well, of course, it's killed 100,000 of us here in the States. So my operating principle is I need to primarily to protect myself. And so I'm masked, and I'm going to be masked for quite some time when I'm out in the world. And it's been interesting. You know, I had one meeting with my son and grandsons, and my son and his partner are being very careful about so I think it was a relatively low risk circumstance, but I've had to be at PIMC for a couple of things. The phone system wasn't working, and so I met with the fellow, and I asked before he came. I presume that whoever comes will be masked, and will be maintaining social distance, and the guy said yes, of course. And so then when we had an appliance fail, our dishwasher, washing machine fail, and same thing, I just required of the person coming into my house that he be masked, and I was a little careful. I didn't sanitize the washing machine after he left and so on, but so I'm going to approach it really carefully. And we're not in a rush. We're not in a great rush to open PIMC. To have a few people in the Dharma Hall so we can say we're back in the center now, because it's complicated how to do it and to do it safely. So I don't know if that's any help, but I think just being really overt that, you know, if you're coming over for dinner or you know, if you're inviting someone, that let's do it very safely. Is that approaching what you're curious about?
It is helpful, but I'm almost more talking a little bit, and we don't need to extend this too much, but I'm almost more talking about the emotional aspects of of having that kind of more intimate relationship, say with old friends, of who do you gather with in very small groups. That
Oh,
sounds,
oh,
and just we haven't had to have those conversations with each other. We don't usually say to each other, well, what have you been doing this past week? Or do we feel safe together? And so it's treading on new water where we've given each other, we've always, just, there's a large element of trust here to be talked about, and also just feelings about it as we make these decisions. I don't think there's a real answer to this, but I wonder how you approach it,
huh.
kind of openly and compassionately.
Cautiously. And I'm a little hesitant to for some reason to bring this up, but it's like those who are dating and the conversations about STDs. It's like,
Exactly.
have you, how active have you been in your conversations with people, and how safe am I to engage with you? There's that dimension of it, and I think I'm going to try to just be honest. Something that helps me a lot is to say, I feel awkward in this conversation, but I need to say this, and that way it allows me to really be fully myself. But thanks for bringing it up. It's an interesting question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Huh. It's a really interesting question.
Good morning, Robert. Songa. It's Jessica here.
Hello, Jessica there.
All of a sudden, I just got overwhelmed when B asked that question and listening to it. And it just dawned on me that it's almost strikes me like there's Thich Nhat Hanh's book on anger. And one of the ways that he suggests approaching when you're feeling anger or you see someone else angry is just to say, I love you so much, especially with a dear one. I love you so much. I would love for us to work this out. And so in my mind's eye, I just thought, well, wow. So when I want to engage with our close friends, our family, almost the lead in, I love you so, so much. And I want us both to be safe, and I want us to be able to reconnect. Please know how much I love you, and then please know how much I want us both to be safe. And that just, wow, I'm going to get teary. It just made me realize how important. And it's funny that you mentioned, not funny, haha, obviously about Tara. I'm so glad she's recovered. We are pretty sure our youngest son had the virus. And one of the things that dawns on me until we know about how this thing carries or sheds or when it stops or when it starts, that, my ability when I next see him to just give him that immediate big hug. I mean, maybe it'll be okay. But it's one of those lingering sadnesses, and yet I know for everyone's sake, we just have to be super, super loving and careful for ourselves and for others. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Bree, for asking that.
It brings home to me the magnitude of this epidemic. It's not something that is just going to be over, and the consequences can be dire. And there's that part of me. There's a part of me that wants it just to be, for God's sake, be done, be over and with, so we can get back to life. But it's not, and so hugging or not.
Robert.
Tim, hello.
Hi. Um, I live in a kind of high density part of northeast Portland, and there's six on the block that I live in. There's six small businesses, and the third of which just went out of business. I don't mean closed for the season. I mean
Gone.
they're gone,
Yeah.
and that kind of made it real for me. I know theoretically when we come back it ain't going to be like it used to be, but these are three small businesses. I mean, small businesses, and they're gone.
Mhm.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the count? I think it's 30 million Americans are out of work. Phew.
Robert, this is Pamela.
Hello, Pamela.
And one of the things that I was thinking is thinking about what you said, B and Jessica, is how, in a way, how much more careful we'll be. I think about friends that I'd love to get together with, and we might have at one point just said, let's go have a cup of tea. And now you have to think about, I don't know how to say this in a way that doesn't sound insulting, and I don't mean it that way, but it clears out friends who are sort of casual in a way, because we have to go to a fair amount of effort to be with somebody we care about. And so maybe we don't want to do that with absolutely everybody that's sort of peripheral in our lives. That it sort of clears out the flotsam in a way, in terms of personal
Mm-hmm.
closeness. A friend of mine said, I want you to come over and have tea with me in the garden, and I had to think about it, because we'll have to set up her place to be able to be far enough away and be outside, so the weather will have to be right, and we'll wear masks unless we're actually drinking tea. And so all of those things, it kind of has to be worth it. And I was thinking about, when people are dating, and that's actually when you're taking the next step and you have to have a conversation about STDs. You get to stop and think, is this the direction I really want to go? Is this where I want to put my energy? So I don't know if that's helpful, but it has been helpful for me to actually think about that.
Well, I'd like to say something in response. So yes, it does make it harder to get together, but for those people who don't really have any close friends, and they're going to be left pretty lonely as their casual friends drop them, and then they'll have no one. So just another thought.
Wow.
Good morning, Robert, and thank you, B, and Jessica, and everyone. I've had this conversation with a friend of mine, Margaret, who is a physician in Seattle, and we have talked about all getting together, and we made the mutual decision that she is in the line of conflict with this disease, and we're just going to have to really be mindful about this and not get together right now, because it's dangerous.
which flies against the desire to get back to things being, quote, normal. And they're remembering this really is a big deal. I have to sneeze. I'm going to mute myself.
This is Nancy, and I just wanted to thank Diane personally for your comment.
Mm-hmm.
That really touched me, and I just thought that was an amazing thing to share. So thank you.
Robert, I have a thought about this too. It's sort of a way I've been preparing myself because, just empirically, we're talking about opening up and people are starting to loosen up and we've got crowds in various places where they didn't used to be. And there's, my brain is telling me that this is still out there. It's not going away. And there's a great urge to relax. But I've sort of been preparing myself by saying this is going to be a long haul, and it's a personal decision I think people need to make. But based on what we know clinically, there's a 2-week delay in seeing the effects of a decision that's being made. So, Memorial Day weekend, we're not going to see the effects of that until the middle of June.
Yep.
And if, as we know, the effects are exponential, where things are in the middle of June won't be revealed until the beginning of July. I'm not, shall I say this, I'm not willing or hoping or whatever, but based on just empiricism, I'm taking the view I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing and see what happens in June and July. My stomach's telling me that the disease is going to tell us what we should be doing and what we should have done. And I think where we will be in a month may be revealing, and those who choose to be really conservative and protective will fare better than those that don't. So I'm kind of resisting the popular urge to relax, and mentally I've just sort of been preparing myself that, this is the way we're going to be living for a while. And I hate to be a spectator watching harm to other people, but that's just kind of how I'm approaching it. I'm not having any expectations that this is going to change for me anytime soon.
Thanks, David.
Hi, I'm just going to make this short. I'm Gail, and I listen to Amy Goodman. It's on KBOO, and she interviews journalists, scientists, epidemiologists, all kinds of people. And the information that we receive, depending on the place that we get it from, is not complete. And I try to give myself a break because listening to that stuff is a little too much. But I'm getting like hits around some researcher who did a study saying, well, 10 feet is really more reliable than 6 because this is the study I did, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it just kind of goes on and on. And so I think it's human nature that unless it's right up in our faces, the reality tends not to be there. And so people have to have personal tragedy in their home or lives with friends to really grasp the magnitude. And I so appreciate this conversation because most of my friends don't have the thoughtfulness that has come out, in this conversation. And just yesterday, there must have been some kind of celebration in Battleground because there were hot rods with flames coming out the back, the big four-wheelers with the American flag waving, and somebody cut me off and left me on the railroad track on the street. I mean, it was wild here last night, and I just go through and go home. So I don't know, but if I didn't have this every morning, I don't know. You know, it's pretty sketchy around here, and
Thanks, Gail.
yeah. So thank you so very much for this. Thank you.
Well, it's already 13 after 8. Anybody else? This is a conversation that no doubt could go on for a long time. Anybody
I
else?
was just going to add the further conflict.
Breaking up.
My daughter, who's 12, came to me yesterday and she said, Mom, I can't. Oh, can you hear me?
Breaking up, but yes. No. Frozen for me. Sorry, Tim. I can't. Oh, now you're muted again.
I'll try one more time. Does that work?
Yes.
My connection might be unstable, but it's just calling up to me. My daughter's sharing with me yesterday. She came to me, she's 12, in tears and said, Mom, I just can't stand it. Some of my friends, they're starting to get back together and they're posting it on social media and it's making me really sad. So, you know, I really felt so compassionate for her because I get that, you know, we want to, but we still feel like it's better to stay more protective. So I really feel horrible for the children that are seeing mixed messages as well about what to do.
Yeah.
I just want to add one more point. It's kind of the obvious. In the absence of leadership, which we currently have, where good information is not being funneled and checked, we kind of have to be our own leaders and listen to those we trust and be really careful of the sources we're getting information from. And on something like this, my attitude is better safer than sorry. So go with more conservative views and hope that you're wrong. But it's not our fault that we don't necessarily know exactly what to do here. And vote.
Robert, I know it's late, but can you just say a few words on anger and hopelessness? And this has been such a hard week for me with the political situation. I mean, it's just kind of broken through the equanimity, and just, you know, anything that you can say to kind of help get back on track.
A long time ago, it was 2004, I led with my then partner Nancy a pilgrimage to Thailand. And it was, and my sadness is touched by yours. And I've been in the news a little bit in the last day or so, and this tragic insanity that's upon us now. But anyway, it was in the run up to one of the Gulf Wars. I think it was Gulf War II, shock and awe. And I asked, I'm forgetting, Achan Gayaseko. Anyway, he's a Japanese man who became a Thai forest monk, who has a large monastery in western Thailand, almost on the Burmese border. I asked him, what can I do? I see my country going insane, and the war drums going, and he was very kind, and he mentioned something about, well, it's out of your control. You don't have control over it, do you? And then he said, balance your own mind and heart and practice love and compassion. So how to do that? One thing is, I know I can't watch much of the news, because then I'm there. I'm not a spectator from afar. Watching it takes me to be there, and it riles up my own anxiety and anger, and so titrating my dose, and also going as deep as I can let's go as deep as we can in our meditation to touch the other pole, where this is the way of the world, and that's how it is. And I can still be peaceful despite the fact that this horror is happening. Don't know if that's any help, but that's the direction that I tend to take myself.
Thank you for bringing up that question. I've been really heavy-hearted this morning, hearing about what happened in downtown Portland, and it just feels like the social fabric is unraveling in front of our eyes, and I get sad and scared and angry all at once, and trying to breathe and stay.
Yeah.
But that is feeling really big today.
Another thought. We have a profoundly dysfunctional leader of the country, surrounded by dysfunctional people supporting it, and it sets off in me, and I know in many others, the anguish, terror, etc., of having had dysfunctional parents. And part of what's happening is the anguish is not just about the politics or about the economic situation. It's that way deep inside there's this feeling like mommy and daddy are out of control.